Chapter 2. A Hall Full of Blood. Shield-Shaving left a son who ruled after him, and that son had another son named Halfdene. Halfdene had 3 sons, Hrothgar, Harogar, and Halga, and a daughter whose name has been forgotten, although she was beautiful and witty and married on Yella, king of the Swedes. All of Shield's heirs had some shield in them, though none had quite such giant strength. Of the 3 sons of Halfdene, Hrothgar was the strongest, and when his father died they made him king. Hrothgar had a backbone that would bend to no man. He was bold and fierce, with red hair, a jutting jaw, and eyes like naked swords. While still a boy, he'd killed a bear with his own hands. It was not a particularly big bear, but the deed was sufficient to make him famous. Hrothgar himself did not boast, but his poets sang his praises all over the land of the Danes, and men came flocking to join his army. One day, Hrothgar made up his mind to build a hall with some of the spoils he had won in war. "I had a dream," he told his retainers, "and in the dream I saw a hall that was bigger than any hall built since the beginning of the world. The floors shone, the roofs were gold, there was ivory everywhere, and a throne where a king could sit. Just such a place I'm gonna make. Poets will sing in it, of fights and wounds, and the might of my grandfather, Shield-Shaving. And my own brave men will eat and drink in it. I shall call it Hall Harrowed." Stone for the building of the Hall Harrowed came from all over the world. The masons planned, and the diggers dug down so that it was founded on rock. The banging of hammers and the chink of chisels filled the air. Summer, autumn, winter, and spring. It looked like a sleeping giant covered with ants as the builders went about their task. At last Harrow was finished. It stood tall and firm on the edge of the misty fen. By day it towered above men's heads like a second sun, so bright were its walls and roofs. By night the torchlight blazing from its high windows was like a huge sentinel who did not sleep. Everyone agreed that the king had built a wonder. Hrothgar said, "I am pleased. My dream has come true." He sent out messengers inviting the most noble lords in the land to come to a banquet out to celebrate the opening of Harrow's doors. Poets sang at the feast, and the guests had so much to eat and drink that some of them could hardly walk. Hrothgar gave every man present a ring from his treasury. The music of the harp and the happy shouting of warriors echoed out across the dark fen and drowned the crying of birds that flew in the night. The banquet was over. The guests retired to sleep. Hrothgar had sleeping chambers built for the most important ones, far away from the smoke and bustle of the kitchens, with the great curved couches comfortably heaped with skins. Only the king's bodyguard, 30 of his toughest fighting men, remained in the hall itself. They were supposed to keep awake and watch for enemies, but, as it turned out, they were also weary from the feast. They soon slept too. They satisfied their consciences with the thought that Hrothgar was so strong a ruler that no one would dare attack him. Soon Hall Harrowed was a palace of snores. Out in the black fen, something stirred. It was cruel and slimy, and its eyes shone green. A part of the night it moved through. Its wicked heart was darker than the darkest place in that night. Even the moon did not look at it. A trail of blood that was left on the mud where the creature crawled. This was because it fed on living things that had grown so fat and swollen in its greed that bits of the people it had eaten dripped from its scummy lips and crooked teeth. Its claws were red. Its breath, coming in little gasps, stank like a drain. The fen was full of evil things that feared the light. There were vampires and witches, and ogres and worms that burned. Horses with no heads and with hands instead of hooves loomed out of the fog. Black bats flew there, with wings like coffin lids. Rats as big as dogs swarmed about in packs, killing and eating anything that got in their way. Some of the pools were so thick and druggy that no one knew what lurked at the bottom of them. A few were bottomless, and went straight down to hell. It was from the darkest of these pools that the creature with green eyes had come. It was the chief of all horrors at the fen. hungry rats turned tail and fled when they saw its grisly head emerging. Now it made a noise in the throat like the crunching of bones or the sudden fracture of ice underfoot. A bat shrieked. "Grendel!" hissed the warning wind in the grasses. "Grendel! Grendel! Grendel!" The creature Grendel dragged himself toward Hall Road. Morning came and the sun shone. The birds began to sing. Hrothgar woke up bathed in sweat from a terrible dream. "My hall," he cried, "my lovely hall was full of blood." The servants tried to comfort him. "It was only a dream, master. You ate cheese before retiring for the night. Bad dreams mean cheese, nothing more." But the king would not be comforted. He held his head in his hands and turned his face to the wall. "Go down into the hall," he said at last. "Go down and see the worst. Then come back and tell me what you've seen." Dutifully the servants did as he commanded. They laughed and joked as they went down to the first twist of the great stair that ran through the Harrow Road like a corkscrew. Hrothgar's a brave man, and a good king, but he's always a little bit superstitious. His companion agreed. "Look, never eat cheese last thing at night," he said. "Not even if you've got a stomach like shield shaving. Simple as that." Their feet echoed on the stair. "Bit quiet, isn't it?" "Nothing strange about that. This place is so big. Nice day, though. Hear the larks singing. Tell you what, let's go take the couches out in the sun and give 'em a bit of an airing. Good idea?" No answer. The servant looked at his fellow. The first servant's face had gone white. He pointed wavering down the stair. Both men started shaking with fright. There was no sign to be seen of the 30 warriors of the king's bodyguard, and none of the dreams had come true. All the ivory floors and walls of the banquet hall had been dripping with blood.